Hi everyone and welcome back to Chess for Charity. In this video, I'm going to be doing a second part to the retrograde puzzle that I showed in the earlier video. So if you haven't watched that yet, feel free to watch it. It involves this position where instead of the pawn being on d6, it's on e5. That's the only difference between this puzzle and the previous puzzle. So if you didn't see that video, I'll give you a solution to this one really quickly. So the answer actually was to promote to a bishop and checkmate the king. And with that in mind, let's look at the new puzzle. So look, it's very similar. The pawn, instead of being on e5, is now on d6. Okay, so we have to figure out how is this possible? And that's what this video is all about. If you want to give a second and kind of think about it, feel free. Right now the king is checkmated. Hopefully you see that. And just kind of think about it. So I'm going to show the solution and then talk about how to get there. Okay, so the last puzzle was a promotion to a bishop, and it was mate. Okay, great. Now can we do that same thing here? Well, it seems like the answer is no, because again, I'm saying again as if you saw the last video. If you promote to a bishop, that means the king must have been on this square one move earlier, right? Because it would have had to go from a7 to a8, and then you promote like that. But in this position, it can't be on a7 because of this two checks. The arrows are never good. Two checks. So how is that working out? So you say, okay, it can't be the same as the last one. You can't be promoting to a bishop. That doesn't make any sense. So you might think, well, how can I get a place where the king can be on a7, and instead of being checked by two pieces, maybe checked by only one? And you think, okay, well, maybe if there's something blocking between the king and the queen, that would help me out. And then you say, okay, well, if you're used to these retrograde puzzles, you think, when there's a double check involved, one of the first things to think about is en passant, and whether or not that's even possible. And you think, okay, well, I see a pawn is on d6, and that would be possible if there was a pawn here that went up to. That'd be a possible move, right? So you say, okay, that's something to think about. And you kind of conclude that a pawn move has to be necessary because let's just say the pawn's here, and you did this, that'd be mate. But like I said, for the pawn to be here, that means the last move, the pawn or the king would have had to be on a7. Well, how could this make sense? Because the bishop and the queen would be here. Well, this is kind of where that pawn jumps in. So you think, well, here's a position that works. If I put the pawn here and I gave check mate like that. So you kind of keep working backwards, or you're just putting ideas together. We haven't finalized anything yet. We're just thinking. And we say, okay, this bishop right here, this bishop is cutting off a7, and this queen would have sight all the way through unless there's something blocking. So, okay, so let's just run with this piece of logic here. So if I were to say the king is on a7, and let's just say I give check with the bishop somewhere, maybe the bishop's on a3, I give check, and if the king went down, then nothing works. But of course, retrograde puzzles are about playing legally, not well. So the king would go up, and you say, okay, well, this actually makes sense, because now if I check the king with the bishop, now this pawn can block, and I can take en passant, and that is the answer. So you say, okay, that was kind of fun. It's a little quick. Let's go backwards to find the original position. So let's show everything in slow motion here. This was the original position. Move the king. I guess I'll put him here. Move the bishop. Oops, this bishop. Maybe something like this, right? The king went here. So the last move in the position was, like I said, king. It could be here. Doesn't really matter, right? King moves to a7. Wherever it was, I don't think that matters. Okay, king moves to a7. You check with the bishop on c5. The king moves up. You check with the pawn on e5. The pawn blocks. You take with the pawn en passant, and you have mate. So what I really like about this puzzle is just how it's so different in the solution, but it's very, very similar optically, right? The other puzzle just had the pawn here, and it was a whole different thing. You promoted to a bishop. And if you wanted to look at that, feel free to watch that video. But this one, it looks the exact same. It's just the puzzle is slightly off, right? One pawn different. But the whole idea doesn't work anymore. So I just thought that was so cool. So that's it for this video. If you enjoy the content, be sure to like on YouTube. I've been making a lot of these retrograde puzzles and I really love them. But that's it. Thanks so much. Bye.